A lot of words are thrown around when discussing news media, such as misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. It can be overwhelming trying to think through all of them, and it can feel like truth can't be found anywhere. This video is going to look specifically at bias, the types of biases, and what you can do to spot them. We all want fact-based, high-quality information that can educate us and help us make informed decisions about our communities, who we vote for, the economy, and more. Whether it's intentional or accidental, bias can interfere with that. Bias is defined as prejudice in favor or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. We all have biases. The processes that create biases are hardwired into us. There are mental shortcuts that human beings take that allow them to make judgments and decisions based on partial information. They generally work out pretty well, but since they skip some steps of logical reasoning, it can sometimes result in getting things wrong. The key thing is learning how to identify and manage not only biases in the media, but biases in your own thinking that color your response to it. Bias can occur in the media for several different reasons. One example is it shows up in advertising, something we have little trouble spotting. Whether we see them on TV or billboards, we immediately identify advertisements and respond to them by taking their messages with a grain of salt, knowing that they are biased in favor of what they seek to sell. Bias can be subtler in other situations. Media organizations are businesses, and thus have an interest in bringing attention to their content. Some media organizations may also have political motivations in getting you to adopt a certain point of view. They might seek to achieve either of these objectives through clickbait, headlines and imagery designed to exaggerate or otherwise draw extra attention to a story. Some publications hold themselves to higher standards than others when it comes to clickbait. You can identify it by seeing if an article's title and images are far more astonishing than the actual content of the article, or even if they relate to the content at all. Do they appeal to emotions such as anger, validation, or inspiration? In addition to the exaggerated or misleading titles and pictures, there, of course, could be bias in the article itself. A key thing to look for is slanted language or outright opinion. Consider whether the words the author chooses have positive or negative connotations, and if they take a neutral and descriptive rather than judgmental stance on certain topics, policies, people, or parties. It's also important to check if the author links their sources or references when they obtain their facts. Media organizations can also seek to drive clicks or influence through what they choose to select or omit, both within individual articles and throughout their platform as a whole. There are certain stories that they could choose not to cover, either for political reasons or because they believe other articles will get more attention from their audience. This highlights why it's important to consume a variety of media sources and content. It helps address a form of bias we all have known as confirmation bias, which leads us to seek out and favor information that is in accordance with our pre-existing beliefs. Media bias can go both ways. Of course, media companies have biases, but every individual also has biases of their own that, without careful attention, one can influence the content they choose to consume, how they interpret it, and even lead them to write off quality information as biased. One great way to assess not only a media company's biases, but also your own personal biases, is to look at Biasly's media bias ratings. On the site, you can select a media organization of your choice from a list of hundreds. Once there, in addition to being able to see an aggregated AI score and analyst ratings from the publication as a whole, you can scroll down to see real-time bias ratings from individual articles. Find an article that interests you and click on its rating. You'll be able to see a detailed breakdown of the article that includes policy leanings and politician portrayals. Under both sections, you can see the sentences that were marked for bias. This is an easy way to see examples of bias, so you can know what to look for. Beyond that, you can pay attention to your own reaction to the sentences. Can you tell that they're biased? Do you find yourself agreeing or disagreeing with the biases? Many people think that they aren't personally biased, or that they know their own biases. But it can be easy to erroneously believe that one's own views are correct and neutral, and that it's the others who are misled, since confirmation bias leads us to favor our already held beliefs. Exercises like this will help you get a clearer and more objective picture of your own biases so that they don't get in the way when you investigate the news. With the proper tools and insights, spotting bias doesn't have to feel like a mystery or guessing game. by considering what an author or organization's motivations might be, whether or not they exaggerate or use misleading headlines, use opinionated or judgmental language, and if they reference sources that can be found elsewhere and appear credible. You can evaluate an individual piece of media. It's also important to look outside of a given piece and draw from a variety of different media outlets, which can be done using Biasly's side-by-side view of the news, which can be accessed near the top of the homepage. This can help come across any information a piece may have omitted. At the same time, it's important to remember that we all have biases of our own. Be wary of confirmation bias and becoming overly attached to your pre-existing knowledge. Along with evaluating a media source, tools like Biasly's Media Bias Ratings can help you get a clear understanding of media and how you personally respond to it. Knowledge of these principles can help us all become better decision makers, learners, and citizens, and the world will be better for it.